It's twofold, right? We didn't have the coach of the year. We didn't have the MVP. We only had 2 All-Stars. So they say we're a super team, but, we didn't get rewarded like we are. But, we know we got a good team. We're not perfect. We play the right way more often than not. And we know we got to be better. But, for, I guess, saying people that are spoiled from our success, we don't pay attention to those things. We just go out there and control what we can control.
Jason Tatum after the game last night. And if his demeanor sounded a little down, a little morose maybe, it's because they got their asses handed to them by almost 30 points in a playoff game at TD Garden. We begin there. It's Jones and Mego without Jones. Me, Arcand here. Andy Hart in as well. And we are live at our Fenway Studios, the Ford Clubhouse Fenway Studio, which is brought to you by our New England Ford dealers. Now during Truck Month, get a great deal on Ford F-Series, America's best-selling trucks for 47 years straight, an official truck of your Boston Red Sox. Now, we have a lot to get to today in that abomination of a game that we saw last night. We'll get to Jason Tatum and the way he played. We'll get to Derek White. We'll get to Joe Mazzulla. We'll get to Donovan Mitchell. We'll get to lots and lots of topics. But I want to start there with what you heard from Jason Tatum in a kind of bitchy answer, I think, if we're calling it like we see it here. Says that this isn't a super team, sure, but, we didn't get the awards that a super team gets. I didn't get the MVP. We only have 2 All-Stars. You won 14 more games than anybody in the conference, and you've been double-digit point favorites in every playoff game so far. But, yeah, okay. I guess it's really unfair to call you a super team. We start there with our big Q at 2, and that is Jason Tatum right or wrong, or did he even really take a stance on this? Is this a super team? Are the Celtics a super team? Mego, are the Celtics a super team?
Okay, so having been in the room last night, my takeaway was, first of all, it sounded like he was just pissed off that nobody got awards because this is the time of year when all the regular season awards come out and nobody on their team really got awards. And so he sounded a little bothered by that more than anything. But I think it's his way of saying, like, no matter what we do, we're not going to win with the way that people talk about us. That's the way I interpreted it. But to the bigger question, which I think is really interesting to me, is this Celtics team a super team? I don't like the way that the poll is swinging. Now I'm wondering if I'm just being some kind of fangirl, because I don't think that they're a super team. And
Would
maybe
you be a fangirl if you did think they were a super team?
No,
isn't that being more of a fan?
Well, no, because I think I'm agreeing with Tatum saying that they're not a super team. It sounds to me like he's saying, like, oh, when we're winning, people want to call us a super team, and that's the only reason why. When we lose, people say, well, like, you're a super team. Why aren't you, why aren't you blowing out every team by 20 points all the time? And I think he is bristling at that. I guess my definition for a super team is that why the Celtics can't fit it is they don't have anybody who's won MVP other than Drew Holiday, who's 4th or maybe at times the 5th best player on your roster. They don't have anybody who's won a championship. I'm not saying that you have to have those things. I guess I still, and this is why I might be being a fangirl about this, I still think that the best players on your team, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, are more on the ascent of their career. I think that they've pretty much arrived, but they're not exactly, I don't think that they're at the pinnacle of their careers yet. And I also think this is a little bit more like, I don't know, quasi-political. I don't know, my just view of it. And maybe you guys can tell me I'm totally off the mark here. I also bristle at the term super team with this team because I think of a lot of super teams as being more a product of the player empowerment movement, where it's someone either demanding a trade to go somewhere and play with a friend of theirs, or a superstar like LeBron James actively recruiting other superstars to be there. And this is something that came about more organically through the draft. And then you can say, okay, Porzingis, Drew Holiday, those are also both superstar guys, if you want to label them that come with footnotes. Drew Holiday's 33 years old. He is not on the ascent of his career. I think as good as he is, he's past the pinnacle of his career. Kristaps Porzingis.
Wait, hold on a second. Wait a second.
What?
Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown aren't at the pinnacle of their career
yet,
and Drew Holiday is past the pinnacle of his career. So what's the pinnacle of someone's career?
For most NBA players, it's between 27 and 34. Drew Holiday's 33.
34?
Yeah. I think that in this day and age, it's somewhere between 20. If you look at when superstars win championships, that's when they win championships.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I just think they're a homegrown super team. They're a new spin.
And that's why I'm saying, like,
I voted yes. 26 and 27. So you say no, they're not a super team.
No.
They're not a super team.
No.
Okay.
Well, then what's a super team now?
Okay, so like the two examples that immediately, these are the most obvious ones that come to mind for me, are obviously the Durant Warriors. That's the biggest definition of the super team. But the LeBron Heat, I think that's a super team too.
Right.
Dwayne Wade had already won. LeBron had already been MVP. Like they came
So they have
together.
to be assembled. You can't be developing into a super team.
I don't know.
Because to me, the core of the Celtics is obviously Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They are both going to be Hall of Fame players. Right? And you added all-star caliber players, maybe more than that, to it. They were trying to sell me that everybody's an all-star. Every time I watched NBC Sports Boston for half the season, they're all all-stars. I mean, if you're legitimately trying to tell me Derek White and Drew Holiday and
okay, but they were that was just a message from inside the team.
Sure,
I thought was bull
but was
crap
it stupid
in the moment because they weren't giving him the extension?
But
yeah,
was it stupid?
It was stupid.
See, I don't think it was stupid.
If you looked at the numbers, he was not gonna ever be.
He was not going to be an all-star, but is he an all-star caliber player?
No, because there are other players above him.
Well, no, not everybody's going to make the all-star team of 15, but you can still be all-star caliber. Just like year in and year out, not everybody's all-NBA. They're all NBA caliber players because it fluctuates the top 15 year in and year out, right?
I guess maybe, but that I feel like then you're really negotiating like, okay, would he be an all-star player 12 years ago?
So how many Hall of Fame players in the primes of their careers do you need to be a super team?
I don't think it's even about Hall of Fame. I think it's about if you're winning MVP, if you've won championships before.
So will retroactively, if they win the title, they become a super team?
If they win the title now, no. I wouldn't say that this is a super team if they win the title.
So what do you have to do for them?
Okay, so let me give you an example. So if, let's say, I don't know, 2 years from now, it's still Jaylen and Jason. They've won one title, and then they trade for, trying to think of somebody who would fit this. I don't know, like SGA after he won MVP next year or something like that, then it looks like a super team to me.
But
those
Porzingis
are all
and
stars,
Drew Holiday don't fulfill that criteria?
Drew Holiday is a supporting player. He's been all defensive NBA, but he's a supporting player, especially on this team.
But that tells you how good the team is.
Porzingis has never won anything. He's never won anything.
So you do have to win.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You either win championships or MVP.
Because I think it's about assembled all-star caliber, Hall of Fame caliber talent. Because not all super teams win, right?
Absolutely not.
So
I think
about
the Clippers
talent.
were a super team this year. I think the Suns were a super team this year, and they both got bounced. So yes, I agree with you.
It's about the assembling of star caliber talent, expectations. It's what I started talking about yesterday. I think these super teams might be part of the problem. It's a detriment to the NBA because everybody's lusting after a super team instead of taking the longer route of developing and figuring out who we are as a team. But I just look at them and I say, you have 2 all-NBA players, homegrown. You added a guy who at various points of his career has been seen as a freak, unicorn, whatever star player, whatever his failures in the postseason and other transgressions are.
Failures to even be there.
Derek White is one of the more underrated players in the NBA, and Drew Holiday is a champion all-star caliber player who on some teams is a 2/3, right?
On the championship team, he was a 2.
Right. Yeah. So to me, this is when you bump a 2 to make him a 5 or whatever you want to call Drew Holiday.
Yeah, because
they're a super team.
That was several years ago.
Oh, that's past the prime of the career. I forgot we were outside the window now.
I am appalled by the results of this poll. I really am. I am appalled by the results.
Shamed at you.
This super PAC is so strong today.
78% say no, this isn't a super team. Just between Tatum and Brown, and I agree with most of what you said there, Andy. And Mego, I'm sorry, I just think you're putting way too many caveats into this, and people are just falling in line with what Jason Tatum's saying. You don't have to have a bunch of MVPs to be a super team. There are 5 players that have been all-stars in their career on this team right now, including 2 all-NBA players. And that's across the entire starting lineup, basically. I guess not Horford and White, you could sub, because Horford has been like a 5-time all-star, and Derek White hasn't yet. But he's playing at that level, and he was all defense last year. And I just sort of feel like if this Celtics team isn't a super team, then there's no such thing as a super team anymore. Like, that's sort of how it feels to me. You get that many all-stars and all-star caliber players together, that's what you call it. That's why this year was supposed to be different. That's why they got rid of guys like Marcus Smart and Malcolm Brogdon and Robert Williams and replaced them with all-stars to make a super team. Like that, I thought was the entire point of it. That's why the Heat made
but by
team.
that definition, you said that Drew Holiday was all NBA defensive player last year. Like, all defensive player.
He was an all-star 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, okay, Marcus Smart was defensive player of the year 2 years ago.
Right.
Like, at some point, I think MVP is a different title than some of these other titles that we're throwing around, like all-star or, all defense team.
Fine, and
Derek White has been on
Derek White out of this
on other versions of that.
Leave Derek White out of it, and I still think it's a super team, even if you omit Derek White completely. And I'll go another step further. I think this is not the first super team that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum been a part of. Kyrie Irving, Al Horford, and Gordon Hayward were 3 all-stars who all got together with these 2 young players, and that was considered, at the time, a super team. People didn't know that Tatum and Brown weren't going to be
Yeah, but just because it doesn't work doesn't
19,
mean it's
20
not a
years
super
old,
team.
but that was a super team that didn't work, and there's lots of instances of that. The Lakers, when they got Malone and Gary Payton, that was a super team, and that team didn't do anything. I mean, it's not always about winning. It's about assembling a bunch of superstars together, which the Celtics have done.
I hear what you're saying. I'm saying it's about having a player who has one, like in a meaningful. I'm not trying to take away from Drew Holiday, but that was Giannis's team. If Giannis came over and was on this team, then it's definitely a super team to me. And I don't know, part of it, Andy, it may be like that I'm biased towards a team that builds it more through the draft or builds it through organic movements of their front office rather than somebody going out and saying, hey, we were on the banana boat together in Miami. Like, I think we should all go play for the Heat. Like, part of me maybe gives a little bit more credit to that. But I look at this and I think it's almost like just under the bar. I like also think it's a silly thing for Tatum to throw around post game and try to like use both sides of it.
Oh yeah, that was terrible.
I didn't like that.
Awful
I thought
answer.
It was really bitchy.
Well, I didn't hate the answer. I hated some of the answer, and the bitching about awards after a lost playoff game. When
after you told me yesterday, he doesn't do that, by the way.
And then the second part was he brought up, if you listen to TV, we're a super team, but we don't worry about that. Well, you seem like you're worrying about that right now, and you're referencing TV. That's never a smart thing to do. So you're watching like inside the NBA or like the pregame shows and mad because they call you a super team, but then they get mad when you lose. Like, first of all, he should be proud that they're seen as the favorites, that the expectation is you're going to roll through the postseason. Isn't that what you want as an athlete? Build yourself up to the point where you are the expected champion. You're Mike Tyson. Yeah, you're supposed to roll into the ring, punch somebody in the face in 15 seconds, and get the hell out. You're Tom Brady. You're supposed to show you're Patrick Mahomes. Isn't that what you play your whole life to become?
Absolutely.
The expected champion? Now live up to it.
I thought the Nets were a super team. They didn't win, but that was a super team. Harden and Durant and Kyrie together was a super team.
Sure.
The 08 Celtics, 07-08 Celtics, that was a super team. You know, they weren't in their primes. They were past their prime, some of those guys.
This is where I don't know if the 08
About the 86 Celtics.
I don't
Definitely
know if
not
the
the
08 Celtics were a super team.
86 Celtics were a super team.
I don't know if they were.
Bill Walton coming up.
I think it was a little unusual because it was a big three that was put together all besides Paul Pierce. It was like 2 huge moves in one offseason, and so it felt like a major coup and a super team. But I don't know that I would put that at the same level as some of the other teams that we've discussed.
You had 3 Hall of Famers.
Yeah,
I know. In a sport where 5 people start.
Andy, everybody gets into the NBA.
No, I know,
Hall
but
of Fame.
that's part of it. Like, they're Hall of Famers.
Usually not all on the same team.
Right. And the same starting lineup. And so you like, it's like assemble.
Well, no, I think it's part of it is that, okay, so you talk about the Nets. The Nets were a disaster, but you have Harden, who was an MVP finalist multiple years. You have Durant.
He was an MVP in 2017.
An MVP. Durant, who is an MVP, and Kyrie Irving, who had won, and Durant, who had won on another super team. Like, these are more, I guess my way of saying it, and I feel a little conflicted because I don't want to sound like I'm just letting Jason and Jalen off the hook, especially when Jason's the one who threw this out as a dumb thing last night. But I do feel like there's a difference between having players who have done it and arrived and also have the MVP versus guys who are still hunting for that.
What Nego's saying is Jason Tatum's not good enough to make this a super team. Right?
No, not right now. Absolutely not.
So Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are not quite at the level.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying.
To be a super team. Okay,
they're all NBA. Like, they've had those seasons. They've won those contracts. So nobody can take that away from them. But as they're playing right now, no, I don't think so.
So you think
and I definitely don't think
split up the Jays. Then is what you're saying.
I would never say that.
I've heard you say it.
I've heard you say that 3 different ways.
Literally never said that.
Okay. Jason Tatum, after the game, had some more comments, and this one I thought was sort of enlightening as well towards his, I don't know, defensiveness, I guess, against the media members and people talking about, we're never supposed to lose. So this is how Tatum dealt with that question.
Jason, mentally, how do you guys respond? I mean, they embarrassed you when they won by 28 on your home floor. This is like it was, if you lose the buzzer, maybe you guys feel a little different, but how do you kind of respond from a thumping like this and then mentally knowing that tomorrow the talk is about all your flaws, the team's flaws, that's going to be the narrative, and go into a kind of a raucous environment in Cleveland?
Just get ready for Saturday. Nobody was in there defeated or deflated. Never want to lose, especially in the playoffs. A lot of things we can learn from, and we get it, right? The world thinks we're never supposed to lose. We're supposed to win every game by 25, and it's not going to be like that all the time. We don't expect it to be easy, so it's just going to be fun the rest of the series, and especially come Saturday. But we've bounced back plenty of times. We lost 16 games this year, so I would like to think that we respond pretty well the few times that we did lose.
Okay, defensive. A little defensive there.
A little?
The few times we lost, people think we're never supposed to lose. I understand saying that if you lost at the buzzer or you blew a lead or something along those lines. You got run. You got run last night. And that's, I think, really the point of this and probably why he was as defensive as he was. That wasn't like a close loss. That wasn't, you got to hand it to those guys. They barely showed up in that game, and it was an embarrassing performance. They got booed off the court. He should be defensive, but he should also have a little bit more self-awareness, I think, instead of complaining about awards and how people think we're never supposed to lose. Take some more accountability, maybe, like Jaylen Brown did, is what I would say.
Funny, they didn't get defensive till the game was over.
Oh, wow, nice one. Nice.
No, that was an embarrassing loss, and losing by 25 in front of your home crowd is not a nail-biter like, I know we're never supposed to lose. No. You get embarrassed. You embarrass your fan. You sent what's supposed to be the best home atmosphere in the NBA in the postseason heading for their cars early. Like, that's how bad you were. And you don't see that too often in Boston. A playoff game where the fans are just like, I've seen enough. I'm out of here. And that's the type of performance. So he can say the world. That's the other thing. You're talking to straw men. You're talking to the world. You're talking to TV. Like, not a great look by him, but I actually agree with the overall message, which is weird. I think he did a terrible job in answering.
What, that he doesn't like the expectation that they never lose?
Oh,
No, that you can lose and it's okay. Like, it's going to happen.
But the way they lost is what is getting lost in all of this, which was no freaking effort.
Correct.
They went out there and they dogged it. They got completely run downhill by Garland in the first half, and Mobley just had his way in the restricted zone completely in the first half. And then in the second half, they let Donovan Mitchell just show up. Like, they completely lost their effort. They got out-rebounded 44-31.
Wait,
like,
but
that's just pure effort.
I thought Tatum was expanding his game through effort-type plays, assists and rebounds and screens.
Yeah, where were the screens from Tatum?
I think this is the wrong
How was their
slot.
screen game? How was their screen game? Did he have 1.9 efficiency or whatever the hell? Because I saw a team that got their ass whooped, couldn't hit a three to save them their lives in the second half, and their star, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I know we put too much on the plate of stars, but when it's hitting the fan, isn't that sometimes where you turn to your star and just say, hey, we could probably use you carry us for like a half a quarter.
Yeah, why don't you save us here? You know, the offense isn't running well. We're turning the ball over a lot. Save us, Jason.
It's great to go to Derek White when Derek White's hot. It's great to go to, your guy, Fast PP, when he's hot and he's contributing.
He was trying last night. He was grabbing those offensive rebounds.
Sometimes when it hit the fan, you know what happened? Tom Brady dropped back and he said, Rob Gronkowski, I need you to make a play
for me. Here's the issue is that then when it goes to Tatum that way, he turns around and he does a stupid fadeaway mid-range jumper and turnaround fadeaway mid-range jumper. And it's like, what is this shot selection?
Or he takes Donovan Mitchell right in the eye. That shot at the end of the third, Mitchell, when he faced the crowd and then turned to Tatum,
he just shrugged to the whole crowd.
That face said a lot.
Embarrassing.
And then you look in the background, I think it was Tristan Thompson was like, Ooh, that just happened. That was embarrassing.
That was fun, by the way, getting
embarrassing.
beat by Tristan Thompson and Marcus Morris, like the ghost of Celtics past. That was fun. That made the experience a lot better. I thought Tatum all around was trying to get his offense going more. He took a ton of shots. They're just not falling. I mean, it's been the problem this entire time. It's been the problem.
But that's okay. He's setting screens.
Setting the screens for Derek White didn't help because now Garland and those guys are paying extra attention to him. I wouldn't do any Derek White overs if you're betting on that type of thing in the near future either. I think that ship has sailed. They know that he's a guy that can go off scoring if you leave him open. And Jaylen Brown had a bad game too. I mean, it was all around a bad performance. But I think more than that, the defense was just abysmal. And Jaylen Brown spoke on that.
Jaylen, from your standpoint, was that more a lack of execution or more a lack of effort?
I think it was just a bad game. Obviously, we didn't shoot the ball very well tonight, but defensively, it was unacceptable performance. And I think that's where, we look at that and I'm the most upset. And defensively, we gave up 118 points. And then on top of that, we lost the rebound battle. So we didn't help ourselves tonight.
I think they quit. I think they quit in that game last night. And it's easy to sort of say that in retrospect. I'm not out there on the court. I wasn't there at the game. But watching them on TV, it looked like they lost interest in that third quarter. And in the fourth quarter, they packed it in and said, we'll get them in Cleveland, which, again, I mean, you're a 1 seed. You're a super team, although that's in dispute here on this program right now. You're a team that was 16 games better than any team in your conference. That's not in dispute, or 14 games better. And you were the best team in the league by a good margin in the entire NBA. And you've already had some trouble here with a Miami Heat team that didn't deserve to be on the floor with you, and now a Cleveland team, and you can't win at home. I agree. That was unacceptable defense. We'll go through those numbers, by the way, because there's a lot of matchups that the Cavs were very easy exploiting, I think, last night that involved your best players, that involved Tatum, that involved Jaylen Brown. Their defense was just not there, and it was obvious, I think, from the very beginning of that game till the fourth quarter there. We'll get into all of that. We'll talk about how this team loses focus and how many more wake-up calls they need, and we'll talk about all of that right after Ryan Garvin gets you caught up on what's trending.
Gresh and Fourier, weekdays 10 to 2. Now, here's what's trending on WEEI.
Your Boston Red Sox are back at it tonight. They begin 7 consecutive games at home. They will start a 3-game set with the Washington Nationals. Joe Weil has the Mass Mutual pregame show at 6:10, followed by Joe Castiglione and Will Fleming with the call at 7:10 on the Shaws and Star Market WEEI Red Sox Network. Tanner Houck on the mound opposing the lefty Patrick Corbin. Don't call him a super team. Celtics